Hello everyone and welcome to the Local Government and Housing Podcast with me, Kishore Rajendran. I'm delighted to have Faith la Grange with me today in this week's podcast. Faith is a senior leader at Microsoft in the regional government and housing sector. Faith, welcome to the podcast. Please may I ask you to introduce yourself briefly to our viewers, please?
Yeah, thanks Kishore, great to be here. So I'm Faith la Grange. I am the Director for Local and Regional Government in Microsoft in the UK. I have been here for just over 2 years, and before that worked for a company called Computer Centre for a long time. But I have always, throughout my entire career, worked within the public sector space, predominantly with regional government, a lot with local government, and always in IT sales. So I've been kind of at this for quite a long time.
Perfect. Thank you, Faith. So Faith, I would like to start off asking you a few questions about your professional career. So you are regarded as one of the most senior leadership team members at Microsoft. Very effective. You know, you're very good in terms of managing your team, immediate managers, and also the extended team. So I just want to find out, Faith, how are you good at it? And that's a very direct question, but what skills and experiences have you gained throughout your career that has enabled you to be at this stage where you're an effective leader at achieving great business results, but at the same time, the people that report to you, work on the organization, also like you a lot?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I really appreciate the compliment. I am probably giving away all the secrets that I should be publishing in some kind of business leadership book. But seriously, gosh, I mean, I've been a manager for a long time. I got to become a manager of a team very, very early in my career. I mean, I'd probably only been working for maybe 3-4 years before I became a manager. So, and I think I really see being a people manager and a leader as a vocation. And that's how I feel about it. So ever since then, I have had a role. I've had people leadership and management as part of any role that I've taken, because I genuinely love doing it. And I think you have to love doing it to be able to get the sorts of results that you're talking about. I mean, you know, look, experience, having been there yourself, being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes, all of that stuff around empathy is really, really important, and being really focused on people's development. You know, there is the results side of it, and in sales leadership, we have results that we need to get for the organization. But I try and do that by setting out a really clear vision and strategy and getting the whole of the team bought into that. And then actually, if we ever have to have a difficult conversation around what we're doing, we can always bring it back to is what you're doing there contributing to that strategy and the ultimate vision we've all bought into. And that really helps to drive the performance side. But I would say, you know, on the people side, I never ask people to do things I'm not willing to do. I always try and stand up to be a role model for anything that I'm getting the team to commit to, and you know, and being really empathetic in terms of when the team needs support, and to understand what they might be going through as individuals, both personally and professionally. I think it's a balance of all of those things.
No, absolutely, Faith. And also, I think if I could take you back to your early years in the professional world, we have a lot of viewers watching this podcast who are early in their careers, whether they're interns, apprentice, or graduates working at both regional government and housing associations. And a lot of those early in career colleagues are very ambitious, and they want to achieve great things in life. So what advice would you give to someone who's aspiring to be a leader, but who's just starting off their professional career? And also, in addition to the advice, what are the typical pitfalls have you seen colleagues who are just starting off in the professional world, have you seen that to ensure that people don't fall into that same pitfalls again?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think you one tip I would probably think, but one thing I'd probably say is you've got more time than you think you have. I think, as a very, I started off on a graduate scheme program myself, and I wanted to rush everything. I wanted to be the youngest to do this, get that done faster than anybody else. And that's great. And sometimes it works out that way, and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes those things are utterly outside of your control. So I think, actually just realizing that when you start out, when you're young, take all of the learning opportunities that you can. Don't try and rush through everything, because it's really hard once you get to a certain stage and you've got to deliver and you've got to do the job. It's hard to go back and get that time for learning. So take all of the learning opportunities that you can while you can. Take all the opportunities to expand out your horizons while you can. And remember that you've got more time than you think you have. You don't have to rush through everything. You've got a long career ahead of you. And you've got time to make some changes and change your mind and make different decisions to course correct if you feel like you've gone down a path you didn't want to go to. So I think that's really, really important. And what I say to everyone, it's not just early in career, is, try and focus on the things that you can control, not get bogged down in the things that you can't control. And that's probably one of the pitfalls, is kind of really worrying and spending a lot of time and energy on things that are utterly outside of your control. Really focus on the things that are within your control. But I think the other thing for me is believe in yourself. Just because you're young, just because you don't have maybe quite as much experience as some other people in the organisation, doesn't mean that you don't have a huge amount to offer. And actually, your different perspective, your different talents will be hugely beneficial to the organisation that you're in. So actually, trust that you deserve to be there, and trust in kind of your own decision making, and be willing to stand behind that.
So that's great advice, Faith. In fact, I started as a graduate as well a few years back, and I completely agree with everything you said. One of my mentors used the terminology, you need to learn how to walk before you can run. And if you run before you know how to walk, you're going to trip and fall, right? And I think everything you mentioned absolutely brings me back those memories. Faith, before I go and talk about business and innovation, I think one final personal question I would like to ask you is why Microsoft? Why did you choose to come and work for Microsoft, and what about Microsoft attracts you to remain here?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so much. I mean, for me, it's the culture. I think particularly the culture of Microsoft over the last kind of 6-7 years since Thatcher took over as chief exec. I believe we really live our culture and our focus on diversity and inclusion. I genuinely believe that we live that, and that actually, as much as a corporate organisation can ever be, that we are trying to be a force for good, for benefit in the world. And I think the other thing for me is just the solutions that we have to provide our customers are amazing. And actually, I get to have just some incredible conversations, with CIOs and CTOs and chief execs of organisations within the local government and housing arena that are really genuinely about how our technology can be used to serve the citizen in a better way. And I'm enormously passionate about the work that local government and housing associations do. I think it's incredible what they do, and they support, some of the most vulnerable people in society, which is absolutely what we should be doing. So to be able to work in that market that I really passionately believe in, and to work for an organisation that is so invested in it and able to bring genuinely transformational solutions to that work, is kind of basically my dream job.
Okay. No, that's really good. And I think you touched on one item, Faith, which I would like to expand on a little bit. So if you take as a result of the current COVID-19 pandemic, every customer, every organization has had to change in terms of the technology and the solutions and the processes that they're used to allow their employees to carry on working and delivering the same results, whether that be social care or caring for the vulnerable or housing, homelessness, whatever it may be, from regional government to housing. There's been a lot of change. And as part of that change, we've seen an incredible acceleration in the innovation, especially in the local government and housing association sector. Now, with any innovation, there is two aspects to it. One is the technology side, and the other is user adoption for colleagues in that organization to adopt that technology. Now, innovation has been amazing. It's been accelerated so far. What would you see as risks for that innovation to stop and not carry on once everyone has been vaccinated, once we return back to normality? What items do you see as risk for that innovation to slow down? And what would be your guidance to organizations that are thinking we are going too fast, but we need to take a foot off the accelerator?
I mean, I think the genie's probably out the bottle in some ways. I think it would be hard to ratchet back from the way that we are now working. And some of that is driven by kind of organizations have realized that they can work in a different way, and their employees have realized that they can work in a different way. So why would you even want to go back to, I mean, I know we're all desperate to get back out there and see people and all that kind of great stuff, but why would you ever want to go back to working the way things were, completely? And I don't see, and I don't have too many conversations, if I'm honest, if any, where people are talking like that. And the really important thing to make sure that it sticks, first of all, to make sure that because of the speed of change and the pace at which people had to put technology in and roll out technology, particularly in the early days of kind of the pandemic and lockdown, it's just to go back and make sure that it's been done in a sustainable way, in terms of, ensuring that all of the security posture is right around it, ensuring that it's done in a way that has longevity within the organization. Because, understandably, lots of things were done very fast and potentially been done in kind of stopgap ways. We just need to go back and revisit. And we're helping some customers to do that at the moment, to make sure that it will kind of stick kind of in the organization in a sustainable way. I think the other thing, though, really if we take it on a step from kind of employee productivity, which is what a lot of the tools and rollouts were to kind of start with, then I think really looking at where can digital transformation be deployed to the benefit of the citizen journey. So if you look at any of the processes that an organisation has within the local government and housing space around the support, the particular support or kind of services that they provide to the citizen, looking at that end-to-end process for the citizen within the organisation, truly understanding where digital transformation plays a part in that end-to-end process, not kind of taking that digital piece as like a separate entity, but making it a full part of the process so that it becomes an enabler, and then you are investing in the right things that give genuine benefit and deploying those things properly, and then getting all of the advantage you can out of it, because you're really kind of got the opportunity to rethink how citizen-facing services are designed and delivered. And I think that will make the digital transformation change kind of ongoing and sustainable.
No, absolutely. And actually, that's led me on to another question related to data. So one of our key priorities at Microsoft Regional Governments and Housing team is social care. Now, if we take a look at what conversations we're currently having with customers, in fact, customers coming to Microsoft for guidance, is taking a look at data warehousing solutions and having that standardized sets of processes and formats to ensure data can be shared at a multi-organizational level. So between a council to a social care provider to NHS to police. that is something which we're seeing quite a lot of interest from customers. But what is your view, Faith? Because do you feel that is at the core of digital transformation from a regional government perspective, or do you feel that is the next step of progression after a transformation from a local government perspective?
I mean, I think transformation is a journey overall. So I don't think it's that you digitally transform and then you look at your data. I think digital transformation is an ongoing journey, and absolutely data has to be at the heart of that. There's no doubt about the opportunity that sharing data, the right data in the right way with all the right safeguards around it, can really enable the opportunity for decisions to be made in a different way and in a more effective way, and actually to support the work of the individuals within local government and housing associations that what they want to be doing is delivering their services. And so I think data is massively important as part of that. I think data governance is really important as well, though. So I think we need to start from a point of view of kind of ensuring that we have those data governance plans and the security as well around it. But also how we turning data into information, because we can collect all sorts of data, but actually how do we turn that into useful information? And then once we've got that, how do we start to use kind of emerging technologies in a really ethical way, like machine learning and AI, to support those people in those citizen-facing roles to make the decisions that they have to make using lots of data every single day. And then that's when you start to get into some great opportunities around early intervention and prevention, particularly, you spoke about the social care aspect. That's when you can start to work in that kind of thing. But I think it's an ongoing transformation. It's not about, well, you've done that, now you can look at your data. It has to be weaved in.
No, it's really interesting, Faith. And actually, there's two observations I had. One was related to that automation and machine learning. I'm not sure if you've come across this site, but I recently came across a site called Will Robots Take My Job? And it's effectively, you select your industry, your title, and it gives a percentage rating of how our jobs may be impacted through automation. Do you agree with that, or do you think automation is something that will eventually infuse as part of our natural behavior going forward, or do you see that as a threat to employees doing certain roles within organizations?
I don't think that. I think there's so much that human beings can do that that AI will never be able to do, or not for a very, 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 very long time. But I can't see it ever replacing humans, and nor do I think that we should. It should be about how does it enhance the decision making of a human being? Because if you look at machine learning, so let's take away the AI piece. If you look at machine learning, you can actually just process such huge amounts of data and look for patterns that can be done so much faster. And then actually what you need your people to do, your really skilled social workers as an example, is to look at that with empathy and knowledge and background information and an understanding of the processes. I think it's dangerous to kind of go that you would ever pass over a social care process to a piece of machine learning or some kind of AI kind of agent, but that has a place in it to really help to enhance the decision making and support that of the human beings in the process. So no, I absolutely don't think that it should ever take over. But I think it's got a real place to help people to do the jobs actually that they really went in to do, and to take away, I guess, some of the kind of administrative burden as well. But when we talk about it in Microsoft, we always talk about deploying AI in terms of what it should do, not what it could do, and really having that ethical lens on it, and making sure that the first thing that you do, if you're thinking about as an organization applying some kind of AI to some of your opportunities, is to actually really think about kind of what's your ethical framework that you're going to do it within.
Absolutely, Faith. And I think for the viewers watching this podcast, Microsoft has actually published a document called Responsible AI Principles, where we as an organization have set out items where we see AI being used using our technology and where we do not support AI using our technology. And we'll post a link to the documentation in the comment section of the video as well. So Faith, conscious we're very close to our time, so I just have two further questions. So another item you mentioned in your answer was security. Now, security is a very interesting topic. Lots of customers are looking at it in great detail, not just because of the ransomware and the phishing attacks have increased due to more and more people now working online, especially working from home, but at the same time, customers wanting to harden their security footprint. So when they do have that data warehouse capability, machine learning, IoT and AI, they are confident that that is done in a secure manner. Now, Microsoft offers a wide array of security solutions, not just in our Azure cloud, but also in our Microsoft 365 subscriptions and as security and compliance center packages. And in fact, we're ranked as leaders in quite a lot of the Gartner quadrants where they take a look at the various security solutions. Many customers have been using our technologies, using our subscriptions to offset costs, so not having to pay for a third-party vendor when they already get it as part of the licensing they have in Microsoft. We have many CIOs and also security colleagues within customers who are hesitant to put all their security solutions into one bucket, into one vendor, in this case, Microsoft. And even though it doesn't pose any credible risk, documented risk, I just wanted to take your take on that. What would your response be should someone say, I don't trust giving my security, enterprise end-to-end security to a single vendor? I just wanted to get your view on that.
Well, look, I mean, I think, there's lots of white papers that we can produce and lots of information, as you said, like the Gartner information in terms of that end-to-end security. I mean, I think the important thing is that absolutely, Microsoft's end-to-end security is extremely powerful. And I think, as you said, sort of, it's not just about the cost avoidance when you're buying into the whole package. It's actually the end-to-end control that it gives you when you're integrating across all of our clouds, that it enables you to have across your enterprise. What I would say, though, is that, it's really important to have a good security policy and security posture, regardless of any tool set that you put in and that you choose to have in your organization. And it's also really vitally important to train your staff as well in terms of security, because it doesn't matter how good a security system is, it can be breached with phishing attacks, which are getting more and more sophisticated. And actually, endpoint protection is fantastic, but you really have to educate your users to be on the lookout for things that actually might be a point of ingress for attackers as they get more sophisticated as well. So I think, absolutely, the tools that Microsoft have end to end, I believe, will give the absolute best protection that you could hope for. But you've got to have the right security policy, the right security posture, and the end user training to be able to support that.
Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you taking time to talk on this podcast. And I'm sure viewers, customers watching the podcast will find it very beneficial. Look forward to having you again later down in the next calendar year. But thank you very much for your time, Faith.
You're welcome. Thanks, Kishore.
Thank you.